Last month, we commemorated the famine genocide known as the Holodomor, which took place 75 years ago in Ukraine. During 1932 and 33, the communist regime murdered 7 to 10 million Ukrainians, including 3 million children, by deliberately starving them to death. After decades of disbelief and denial, the world is now beginning to acknowledge this genocide. On the weekend of November 22nd, Canada sent a delegation to the 75th anniversary Holodomor commemorations in Ukraine's capital of Kyiv. It was led by Jason Kenney, Minister of Multiculturalism, Immigration and Citizenship, representing Prime Minister Stephen Harper. Also in that delegation was Paul Grod, President of the Ukrainian Canadian Congress. Paul kindly agreed to tell us about his trip and the role of the Canadian government and the Ukrainian Canadian Congress in this historic event. I reached him at his office in Toronto earlier this week. Paul, thanks so much for speaking with us today.
Thanks for having me on the program.
Now, it's been a long, hard-fought battle, and there are still genocide deniers out there. But did you get the sense when you were in Ukraine for the Holodomor commemorations that those who perished will not be forgotten after all?
Absolutely. It's actually quite refreshing. And the one thing that, despite some of the criticism out there about President Yushchenko, the one thing that is that nobody disputes is his contribution to ensuring the national memory in terms of ensuring that the whitewashed history of Ukraine is remembered in a proper light, both in terms of making sure that the world is aware and also making sure that Ukraine is aware, because quite frankly I think that Ukraine was the area that I think knew least about the Holodomor, and the being in Ukraine, we saw it in terms of through the streets of Kyiv, the posters and the banners commemorating the Holodomor anniversary, the beautiful memorial that was unveiled this past weekend in Kyiv. The weekend of the 20th was revealed in Kyiv, together with a memorial complex that is going to be built, and the programming on the TV, on the radio in Ukraine really demonstrates that Ukraine is now starting to remember its past and coming to grips with the evils of Stalinist rule.
Now, for decades, being caught speaking about Holodomor meant certain death, either by firing squad or the Siberian Gulag. So with all this that you've just described, obviously the fear is finally dissipating amongst the Ukrainian people?
It is in Ukraine, but I have to say that one initiative that the Ukrainian Canadian Congress was involved in, and it was coordinated by the Ukrainian World Congress, together with the government of Ukraine, was the International Remembrance Flame, and which was also traveled through British Columbia and traveled through some 40-odd countries. When it did reach Russia, for example, it was banned from any public vigils. And in fact, the only vigil that occurred in Russia was at the Ukrainian embassy in Moscow. All the others were banned from participating. So wow. The memory of Holodomor, although in Ukraine, is now starting to become a reality, and people are less afraid to speak up. And in fact, Holodomor survivors are now coming out and speaking on this, where before they were afraid to. There are still parts of the world, in particular Russia, where that sad history is still being played down, and in fact inhibited from that story being told. So
there's still some work to do.
There is, yeah. And in fact, the sad part is that Russia is exerting significant influence on other countries, both Western European and other countries throughout the world, and playing down the severity and the actual impact it had on the Ukrainian people, which is very sad that Russia is still unable to come to grips with this part of Ukraine's history.
Indeed, yeah. When you were in Ukraine, what happened? What were the commemorations about?
Well, the commemoration started off with an international forum where there were a number of heads of state, the president of Poland, Lithuania, Latvia, from the European Union, and a number of other countries. And Canada, as you mentioned, was represented by Minister Jason Kenney, who brought greetings on behalf of the Prime Minister. And as we know, Canada was the first G8 country to recognize the Holodomor, and in that I think that the Ukrainian community in Canada can take a lot of pride in its efforts in helping to educate Canadians and educating the Canadian government about the horrors of the Holodomor in order to get them to a level. And this wasn't an easy decision because it took quite a bit of work on a number of parties, including all the grassroots efforts from the various branches and provincial councils and nationally of the Ukrainian Canadian Congress in ensuring that the government of Canada fully appreciated and recognized the Holodomor as a genocide. And lots of work still has to be done because, again, Canada is the first and I believe at this point the only G7 country or G8 country to recognize the Holodomor as a genocide. So although we could take some pride in what we've accomplished in Canada, there's still lots of work to be done.
Mm-hmm, indeed. When you were in Ukraine, I heard there was an announcement made by Minister Kenney, a program for help in the civil service, I think, transparency issues and things like that?
Yes, that's correct. It was part of a CEDA announcement, and in fact, Minister Kenney made the announcement that, in fact, Canada was going to be making a $5 million commitment to promoting and helping educate the civil service in Ukraine.
Mm-hmm. So, is UCC going to be involved in that at all?
Not directly. I mean, the role of the UCC is, as you know, is we're a coordinating body. Our role is to represent the 40-odd organizations that come to form UCC National, as well as the interests of the Ukrainian community. So we're there to help enforce and promote these types of initiatives. And in fact, this program is going to be delivered by CBIE, which is the Canadian Bureau of International Education. Our objective is to ensure that the proper bodies, whether they're Ukrainian community-based organizations or Canadian NGOs, are delivering these types of programs for these types of technical assistance programs for the benefit of Ukraine.